Audio Jungle.
What's up, guys? Mike Penta here with the Mind Body Experience, the podcast to help train your mind for success. Welcome. Today we've got Alex Bosenhart. He is the fittest in Rhode Island, a CrossFit athlete. He just got back from the CrossFit Games with Team Ocean State CrossFit. Pretty excited to talk to him today, especially with his experience recently. Because he just got back from Wisconsin into the games. And if you guys don't like CrossFit, you know, who really gives a shit? Just pay attention to what we got to talk about, because it's going to give you, some good notes or to help you out with your success in fitness. Again, everything we talk about, most of my guests are always going to be kind of talking about goal setting and how they've achieved their goals and how they've become more mentally tough to achieve their goals. And for their success. So I'm going to talk to Alex. We're going to talk a little bit about how he started off. Actually, we'll talk about how he got to the games first and his experience at the games. So, Alex, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
So this is Alex's first podcast, so we'll get him on here and we'll get him talking a little bit. So talk about the games experience in general. Like talk about your overall experience. This is your first trip to the games. Yeah, and what did you do when you got out there? Like, how excited were you? I mean,
it was my first trip to the games, and it was my first trip even to regional, so it was really incredible. Pretty unreal experience, something that I've dreamed about for the last few years, finally coming into reality, and quite a few times, even up until the last day, I kept having to remind myself, wow, this is the games, I'm here at the games, so...
Yeah, for you guys who don't know what the CrossFit Games are, CrossFit, it's kind of the ultimate goal if you're a CrossFit athlete. And for those of you who do know what CrossFit is and the CrossFit Games, I mean, obviously it's a major accomplishment, whether you made it as a team or an individual. Alex both qualified for individual and team, but he did make a commitment with the team that he started training with this year to go team, and they at regionals, and they put together an amazing performance, and obviously they made it to the CrossFit Games, which is the end all of I think most CrossFit athletes out there. Some people, the end all is just overall health and wellness, and no matter whether I'm talking to an elite athlete or someone like who's just coming in to lose a little bit of weight or get a little bit stronger, kind of the same rules apply. And that's kind of the goal, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about today, is like Alex's journey getting to his end result. Some person's going to come in the gym and say, hey, I just want to lose 5 pounds or 20 pounds or gain some weight. They're kind of follow the same rules of success as if an elite athlete walked in and said, I want to make it to the CrossFit Games, So we're going to talk to Alex and be able to apply the things that he says and kind of use that for your success, so you can kind of see the way the brain works and what steps he took to get to that. So your first step obviously was you came into CrossFit, and was it to get to the CrossFit Games the first day you walked in, or were you just trying to get ready? You played football, correct?
Yeah, I was playing college football at the time. I saw the CrossFit Games on ESPN. I saw it on TV. I really didn't even know what it was, but it looked cool, and kind of caught wind of it, heard more of it here, heard more of it there, ended up YouTubing it, learned more about what it really was, found out it's an actual sport, that there are local affiliates you can go to, so I just Googled gyms near me, thought New London's kind of a big area, it probably has one. Sure enough, found New London CrossFit. I didn't necessarily want to make it to the games, but I saw it on TV, and like I said, I thought, that looks really cool. I really want to stop just training to be strong. I also want to be able to run a good mile. I want to be able to do lots of pull-ups. I want to be well-rounded, and that's exactly what CrossFit had on their website. That's exactly what New London CrossFit spoke about on their website. So I emailed the owner, Mike Penta here, came in. Well, I ended up doing my intro with Matt Shaleary, former owner, but I had my first workout, and I was hooked ever since.
Cool. Now, what your first time in CrossFit, though, your first year, was kind of training you up just for football, correct?
Yeah.
Because you still had another year of school left.
I did have another year of football left. Actually, at that point thought it was going to be my last year, but I ended up taking on another year after that. I redshirted for football, so I ended up doing CrossFit that summer, going back to school, and then coming back again the next summer to get ready for my fifth and final season. But I was doing WODs. I was doing Metcons, CrossFit workouts, but mostly I was in here throwing weight around, following the strength program that my coaches wrote for us. It's a little hard to go into a Snap Fitness or a Planet Fitness and start doing power cleans and squat snatches and heavy deadlifts. So this really fit right in for me.
Yeah, I mean, and the same thing with those types of facilities too. I mean, again, if you're going into a Planet Fitness or a Snap Fitness or whatever, I don't mind, talking about other facilities, even though it's my my gym I'm running this podcast out of, but it's all about trying to maintain an overall health and wellness. And again, I like to talk about all the time that your biggest success for physical change comes with mental change. So again, if you're out there and you're listening and you go to one of those gyms, guys, this is all about learning how to set goals for yourself and again to be able to achieve your success, whatever you're looking to do for your health and wellness. Now, after your first year of CrossFit, that's kind of when you started to get in. You did your first open, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of bought into it a little bit, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's usually what does it for most people. Most people don't even know what the open is until they walk into the door and all of a sudden there's a CrossFit Open.
I was hooked on the leaderboard right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch CrossFit or if you do CrossFit, you're pretty hooked onto the internet and the website of CrossFitGames.com and always checking to see who's doing what. So the Open's it used to be 6 weeks, but now it's 5 week. Every single person who does CrossFit, it doesn't matter if you're, a teenager or, I've seen dogs do the Open. It doesn't matter. If you're in the CrossFit community, you can get in the Open and post scores. So what they do is the first round, you go through the first round of the Open, and then when I started, it was the top 60 would make it to regionals, but now it's all the way down to the top 20, which makes it even more incredibly hard, and you really have to buckle down and set your mind right to be able to get to that next level, to go to regionals, which is the top 20, and then from there they take the top 3, 4, 5, depending on the way the regionals are set up now. That make it to the games. So you want to make it to the games. You are setting yourself up for success, and there is nothing going to get in your way to get there. So you had your first taste of it. You were what, 500th your first time through?
Yeah, I was.
Which is still
top
pretty.
6. I was like 550 something.
Yeah, which is still pretty spectacular considering there's probably like 30,000 guys in our region that are competing. So just to make it to that level, you kind of knew what kind of athlete he was. But I took notice of Alex at that point. I didn't know where he'd be able to go with it. He wasn't doing CrossFit very long, and I was able to watch him develop very quickly, with very minimal programming. So, we kind of got to that next level where he started talking about wanting to take it more seriously, which kind of takes me to the first step. You now had a goal. You wanted to make it to regional. So maybe we didn't want to make it to the games yet, but you set your first goal. And no matter what you did we kind of got you on that plan. So your first goal obviously was to make it to regionals, and I kind of blew that up on you, and that's probably why you are where you are. Not probably why you are, but it's a part of why you made it to the games, because Alex didn't know if I told him I didn't think he would be able to make it as an individual to regionals. They had made the standards a lot tougher. So I dropped him down and said, top 20. That's insane to make it to regionals. At the male level, the guys, it's pretty tough. I don't know if you can make it, and
Mike wasn't doubting me.
I just didn't know if you were at that level.
So I had come home from school. I had been doing CrossFit for a couple months when the Open came around, and once we got through those 5 weeks, I was hooked on it. I was watching documentaries on YouTube. I was, all about, wow, huge fan of the CrossFit Games. And I wanted to make it to regionals. And I wasn't sure what it took. I had heard, people talk about, oh, those guys dedicate their whole life to it. Those guys train full time. Those guys, well, what does that really entail? And I know Mike came close quite a few times. So I went one day and I wanted to pick his brain about it. I said, hey, you train for regionals, for the last few years. Well, what does it take? What do I have to do to be competitive, to really get a shot at making it there. And I wasn't at that point when I asked him, I wasn't really sure if it was what I wanted. I just wanted to see what it required, what kind of work it required, what kind of nutrition it required, what kind of special coaching or programming it would require. I know some athletes have their own personal coach. I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't know what that would cost. And that was when Mike was like, listen, wasn't doubting me as an athlete.
Here's what happened. I beat him in the Open the year before, and I wasn't ready to make it to regionals, so I didn't know if he was ready yet.
He wasn't doubting me as an athlete.
I wasn't doubting him as an athlete. I didn't know if he was going to be able to put the time in.
He basically just said it is super competitive. 99.9% of people try and don't make it.
Yeah,
That's what he was saying. It's super competitive. So at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? Now I want to do it.
Yeah, I kind of lit the fire under his ass just to start making that decision to try to get there, which, again, I mean, sometimes you got to have some sort of emotional, attachment to it, a reason for wanting to do something, So, again, he had that emotional connection. He was like, what, screw this guy, man. He doesn't think I can do it. And it's not that I didn't think he can do it. Like I said, I mean, I didn't make regionals that year. I didn't even come close that year. But at the same time, I had already beaten him in the Open with not much training at all, maybe one workout a day. I had already gotten way past one to try to make it to that level. I missed a few times, I got really close, but I was past that. So I was like, you know what, if I wasn't training that hard and I, was a few hundred spots ahead of him, how much is he going to be willing to put in to get to that next level? Because, I mean, when I was training for it, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and I still didn't make it to the next level. So I was like, you know what, I just didn't think he was. I knew we could put a team together, so I had mentioned to him, maybe we'll put a team together, and I think he was like, fuck you, dude, this ain't.
No,
I think he was like, dude, you're doubting me already.
You mentioned team, and I was all for, like, all right, well, if that's the way to get there, then that's the way to get there. I was all for that, but it just never ended up happening. Girls, competitive girls are hard to come by, so the only way it seemed to, at that point, the only route to do was just keep working on yourself, and if a team does formulate, then great, I'm ready, and if not, I'll be ready anyways.
Awesome.
That was my mindset.
So you set that first, again, you wound up setting that first goal of, okay, let me just start working towards regional. And then from there, what did you start doing with your programming? I mean, yeah, I started programming for you in the beginning, but like, what did you say to yourself? Like, what did you feel was going to be like the next step? Obviously to have the programming was the right way to go. You like you mentioned before, you need the programming, especially if you haven't done CrossFit. You're obviously going to go to somebody who's done or knows more. But like, after you found that first step of like, okay, I want to make it to the regionals, what did you start to do? Like, how did you start to develop and train your minds? Like, what were your biggest goals? Like, was it regionals at that point, or was it like, okay, I just want to crack? Maybe you made 500. Was I want to crack the top 100 right now, or did you set yourself up with like a 2-year goal, a 3-year goal? Like, at that time frame, I mean, obviously, you're not gonna not make regionals one year and all of a sudden be like, I'm making regionals next year. Yeah, some people have that goal. Some people can work to that capacity. But what was like, okay, where was the time frame? So once you've established that goal, did you set yourself a time frame? Like, what was?
I don't know if I really had a time frame. I think, you know what? Actually, I take that back. I think my time frame at that point, after the 2015 Open, was 2017 regionals. Yeah. I didn't see myself, like you said, going from 550 something to top 20 in 1 year.
And that's important too to understand, guys. Again, if you're coming in and you're trying to, get on a fitness program or a routine, you can't just say I want to lose 50 pounds or lose 100 pounds and be like expect to do it in like
in 3 weeks,
3 weeks, 4 weeks, and that's kind of the goal behind is to get you to understand. No matter where you are, there's a process to get there. You have to be realistic, because if you aren't realistic and you said I want to make it next year and all you did was train for next year, and you know that the odds of that happening are slim. I mean, could it happen? Absolutely, but it was slim. So if you didn't make it, what do you think would happen if you just had that goal? I'm making regionals next year.
No, now I got to put all this work in.
Yeah, you'd probably not even like. I mean, you probably wouldn't even keep competing. I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. And we don't. And that's the thing is, don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up realistic goals. You know, like Alex did. He said
long-term
it was
success.
2 years. He knew where he was again, and he knew what it could be in the next 2 years to develop to that level. So again, and we're in 2017, and he made it to regionals. So obviously, he set the right realistic expectations for that. But again, we want you to understand is set realistic goals. Don't just walk up and say I'm going to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, and I need it done in 6 weeks, because it's not going to happen. You have to know a little bit too about what you're going into. So
You can set smaller goals periodically.
exactly,
Like, for example,
that's where I
my
was going to
small
lead
goal,
into
yeah,
to
for
next.
2016 was just to hammer down, just hit the ground running, get after it every single day, and wreak some havoc and see how much I could improve. I wanted to gauge how much I could improve in 1 year and
Absolutely.
try to make as big a jump as I could up that leaderboard.
Absolutely, and that's a big mistake that people make as well. Even again with CrossFit athletes or any athlete trying to make it to the next level. I mean, when you set an expectation that's pretty high, like the end result of pretty much the ultimate goal of what you're trying to achieve, if you're pretty far away from that goal, it's important to set smaller goals, because if you constantly look at the top of that mountain, you're on the bottom of the mountain, and say the summit is way up there. If all you do is look at that summit and you're constantly like, oh man, that's so far away, but you made 3 extra steps closer to the summit, you've kind of told yourself, you basically sabotage yourself. You're like, I had a bad, I'm not getting there fast enough, or I only made 2 steps closer to 10,000 steps that I got to get there. But in reality, you made 2 closer steps to the reality, the ultimate goal. So it's important to just look at some smaller goals. Whether it was weekly training, daily training, because you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days. So the whole concept, like he said, was to set smaller goals, set weekly goals, monthly goals. He set small competitions. He started doing competitions locally.
I remember you passed out goal sheets at one point.
Yep, and I did that too.
You had 1 month, 6 month, 1 year.
Yeah, it's something I do, with the gym in general. It's just my philosophy. I've been doing it for a long time. I mean, I know for a fact that you cannot be successful unless you set your mind right to be successful. I mean, it's something that, me and my old business partners, we've kind of talked about for a long time. And I've been doing this now for 14 years. I've been in the fitness industry and working with clients. I mean, you see client A have success, client B not have success, have the same training program, have the same nutrition program. Why is one, successful and one's not successful? And it always came down to goal setting. You know what I mean? They set goals for themselves and they followed the steps to be successful. I always tell people I have this kind of formula for success, which is, set goals, plan, and execute. It's the pretty simple philosophy. I mean, within each one of those categories, there's a lot of subcategories to do each one of those, but it's pretty simple. Set goals for yourself, plan, and then execute. And then always give 100% of the time. I mean, you'll never achieve goals. Yeah, it's part of executing. You're never going to achieve a goal going into it like a 50% attitude, So kind of getting back to, Alex and setting those smaller goals for himself. What was your first competition? Do you remember?
First competition.
Was it here?
First competition I ever did was when I was still in college. I came home and did a partner competition with Chelsea at Stores. But the first
individual.
My first
individual
was the Open. I didn't do an individual competition.
Well, I mean, like going like head to head with people after the Open. Then you went. Did you do any other competitions?
We did a competition, another partner comp here in that summer. I want to say it was like June.
Did you do the Thanksgiving Throwdown or no?
No, I didn't do Thanksgiving Throwdown. That was after we didn't have one. Next year.
So then, kind of, what were your specific like number goals? Like if you were saying when you started off, did you have like a back squat goal you wanted to get to, or a clean goal you wanted to get to?
So I had
because all these smaller goals get you to that.
I wrote down all things that your average regional athlete 1 year goals, and then I looked at where I was, and I wrote those down as my 1 year goals. Looked at where I was, cut them all halfway, and wrote those down as my 6 month goals. And then things I thought I could achieve fairly quickly, like I was on the brink of a 225 pound snatch. That was my 1 month goal. I felt like I was getting close to getting my rhythm on my butterfly pull-ups. So sub 3 minute Fran, that was a 1 month goal.
Awesome. Basically. Yeah, I mean, did you wind up hitting them?
Yeah, I've got them all.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Again, even your smaller
Some
goals,
of them didn't take me a month. Some of them took me more than 6 months. Some of them took me more than a year. But eventually, I've got them all.
absolutely. And just think about this though. Like, do you think that if you set those 1 month goals and you just snatched like once a week, think you would ever hit that goal in that month?
No.
No. I mean, again, it's pretty clear that he also had to put in a lot of work to get there. So just setting goals for yourself, again, it requires you to do work to get to those smaller goals. So talk about now that we got to the level where you kind of set yourself up to making it to regionals, I mean, what were you feeling that time that you finally made? I mean, it was 2 years after you set that goal. Talk about regionals, because regionals was this past regionals.
Yeah.
You made it as an individual, which, by the way, guys, again, I talked about this earlier. Making it to regionals as an individual now is, I mean, it is not easy. It requires full-time work. I mean, maybe there's a rare athlete out there that can just kind of hop in and just, I don't even know. To be honest with you, I have no clue if someone could just come in and CrossFit for an hour a day and make it to regionals. At least this region. I know some regions are a little weaker, but the Northeast region is, I mean, it is stacked to the gills with some athletes. I mean, there are athletes that didn't make regionals that made it in every other region.
The only one I can think of is Chris Spieler claims supposedly he works out for 1 hour every day.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
He has qualified, but he's also.
But that's qualifying. But that's qualifying
sometimes
back in the
games
day.
athlete.
That's qualifying back in the day when they were taking
No.
60.
No, I'm saying like, now that he's retired and he's put competitive CrossFit behind him as an individual, he's said he's very strict about how I'm only going to train for my 1 hour a day. I'm not going to let it.
Yeah, but he won't be able to get to that level. He won't be able to get to the level of making the regionals. Maybe as a Masters athlete, I think since they put the Masters categories in, they made it a little easier. Not easier, it's still ridiculously hard. But I think that everybody in the Masters divisions, they don't train. I mean, eventually your body starts to wear down a little bit, like any other sport. Let's be real here. Even though it's CrossFit and there's different levels of CrossFit. There's coming in and getting healthy and getting in shape, and then there's trying to make it to the CrossFit Games. Anything competitive, risk of injury is high, but and your body gets beat down. So again, we're kind of talking about just making it. I'm still like I said, I'm still, I guess, surprised he made it to regionals this year, because I didn't think he would for at least a couple years. So to be able to, and I know how hard he worked, because he worked out at my gym, and then he started, like I said, once he said I might want to go team as well, he started training with Ray Fleeser up in Ocean State CrossFit, and they had to go up there and train a lot, so he was training up there. But I knew how much work he was putting in, and even at that, I didn't know if it was enough work, because I know a lot of guys who make it to regionals, and I know what type of work they're putting in, and it's an excessive amount of work. So again, like I said, I'm still, just to have made it to regionals is spectacular. So you made it to regional, you got in. So you made it. You want to make it as individual. That's what I was trying to get at. Now you're made it as team. So you decided to go team. Yeah. And
so the decision there was, it kind of just, it wasn't pre-planned. It kind of just happened.
Yeah, because we talked about it. You didn't know if you wanted to or not.
Yeah. So, going up to Ocean State was part of qualifying as an individual. I met Ray, by getting close in 2016, got an invitation to Northeast Fitness Invitational. The top 100 guys in the region get invited every year. So that's where I met Ray. He ran the competition. Met Ray, met his former business partner, Aaron Meredith, who's also used to own New London.
Yeah, he used to own New London a long time ago. I've had a few business partners who moved or ventured out into other areas.
And Taylor and I, another strong competitor here in New London CrossFit, also qualified for regionals.
She'll be on next in a couple weeks too.
She'll be on the next podcast.
Yeah,
we were both.
We're gonna talk to her too. Don't worry, she'll be on.
So yeah, what was it? We were invited to start training with them. Once a week. Come up Saturday, throw down. It was just me and her who were taking competitive CrossFit games seriously here in New London. So we thought, why not? We should definitely go up there with some train with some competitive athletes every so often, get more of a push, get more of a competitive push, work a little harder, work with people who are better than you.
Because they made it to team regionals a couple of years in a row, right?
Yeah, they've got a pretty solid group of competitive athletes up there. So that's how it started. It was just the push, the competition, the atmosphere. of going up there, and then it turned into, well, hey, you guys missed out on regionals last year. You were so close. Definitely should have been on the floor. Should have been on the floor in some way. It was a shame that you weren't. Why don't you sign up on our team? And if you make it as individuals, great. If you don't, then you're on a team to fall back on. At least you don't miss out on competing at regionals that year. You deserve to be on the floor. So we thought about that, and we were like, okay, sure. Well, then, we'll start coming up here more often than once a week. We'll start coming up here a couple of times, 3 times, 4 times a week. Really take this thing seriously. So took on Ray as a coach, and looking at how everyone on the team did in the Open, we both qualified. And looking at how everyone did in the Open, everyone else on the team was really, really close. I think Christine was top 100, Ray was top 40, Tristan and Ashley were both top 30. So we decided, hey, we can go as individuals. We already qualified, and no one can take that away from me. Already qualified, regional individual athlete, great, check that off the list. Why not also see if I can make it to the games this year? Best way to do that was not as an individual. Making it to regionals was awesome. Getting top 5 at regionals, that's a whole different story. So we definitely felt like as a team, if we stayed together, we could definitely make a run at the games. So that's how that decision was made pretty much last second.
Which kind of also takes me to another point about prioritizing your goals. Yeah, you had that goal. You knew that now if you wanted to make it to the games, it was like, okay, I can go individual. Most likely not make it this year. You know what I mean? Because the ultimate goal at the time was just to make regionals. Yeah. Again, Northeast, for people that it is stacked. Okay, so even making it to regionals, I mean, you made it to regionals. Now you got to make it to the games. And you're talking the first place guy in the CrossFit Games, Matt Frazier's in the Northeast. So you're looking, I mean, not only does he win the CrossFit Games, he wins it so convincingly that he doesn't even have to show up on the last day. So you basically know one spot there is already taken. Unless Matt Frazier gets hurt, now you're down to 4 guys being able to make it to the games.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest. I've crunched numbers both this year and last year, and 16th in the Northeast this year, I would have been like top 4 in at least 5 other regions. And last year, I was top 50 in the Northeast. I would have qualified for regionals in a few other regions last year when I didn't qualify.
That's how hard it is in the Northeast. So, you kind of had to say, am I going to make it as an individual? You know what? You might have been able to. I'm not going to say now I don't doubt anything you can do. So you might have been able to, but sometimes you have to prioritize. You're going to prioritize. Yeah, you wanted to make it to the games. You want to make it to regionals, but okay, my road to the games is going to be if I do it and we know that when you're out there on the floor as an individual, most of the attention is drawn to the individuals, not drawn to the whole team because the name of the team is on the jersey, the individual's not. So if you wanted to really make a name for yourself and people notice you, obviously individual way was to go, but at the same time, that's awesome. But if the end result wasn't making it to the games, it was more important to be on the team and put the team first and be able to make it to the game, which worked out. I mean, it was a smart decision. Again, the ultimate goal was the games, and you prioritized it the right way. You can't say I want to make it to the games and do it as an individual if you just weren't at that point yet. You're going to fail, set yourself up for failure. And who knows, next year maybe you would have just been so disappointed that you would have just given up. Exactly. You know what I mean? You'd have been like, I'm just shot, man. I really gave everything I had. I don't think I can do it. But now you made it to the games. Now you can say, okay, I'm going to focus again all my energy and maybe try to make it as an individual if you decide to do that.
So, again, the long-term goal.
Yeah, the long-term goal. And, again, at that point, prioritizing your goals.
And going team, getting there, getting the experience helps with that long-term goal.
Absolutely. So you made it through regionals, which you guys were killing it the first day. And
no, we kind of slumped a little bit.
That's right. That's right. The worm, man. Day 2 and 3 is where you guys picked. That's when you learn about yourself. You guys did terrible the first day. I mean, where did you wind up?
Well, first event we were 4th, and then the second event we were 16th.
Yeah. So then you finished off at the day 1.
Day 1 we were in 9th.
And yeah, now you really want to know what you're about. I mean, as an individual, it's a little easier, but now you got to get 6 people on a team that have that same mental focus. Like, what was going into day 2 and day 3? What did you do? What did you have to say to yourselves? Like, just to get to that level, just keep grinding.
No more mess ups.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all it was. That's all it was. Hey, we get one mess up, we felt like that's what Coach Ray always said. That's what we all kind of figured. You get one, not a bad one. You get one like kind of mess up, which that's what that was. 16th was like kind of a mess up. The top, 8 or so teams were going to be so consistent that you only get one of those, and that was it. And Ray said that was our mulligan. That was our screw up. No more. Everything from here on out has to be top 5, and we can do it because we have to do it.
Now, talk about if you dwelled on that day one. You know what I mean? That's the worst thing you could possibly do is just screwed up and then think about it the whole time.
Thank God for everyone else on the team but me, because I'm terrible at that. I had some hard time really not dwelling on it.
Yeah, but
I had to get picked up a couple times.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
to be honest.
But the thing is, guys, I mean, that's the whole part about being a team, I guess. I mean, you got to just move forward. If you screwed up, just like if you're on a meal plan or something or a workout, you had a bad day working out or you had a bad day eating, don't dwell on it. Move on to the next day, because the next day is a way to, be successful again. So
that's something I'm really, really trying to improve on.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, you get emotional at anything. A goal is an emotional. You set an emotional goal for yourself. Again, no matter what it is, whether you're going to the CrossFit Games or it's an emotional reason why you're doing that.
When you think about it, there was a risk that was taken.
Yeah.
You sacrifice getting all sorts of attention and publicity and such a great experience going as an individual for going as a team in the hope that you're going to make it to the games. Not the guarantee, the hope. So when you see that start to slip away, you get a little on edge.
Well, let's just say luckily he was on a team then, because he wouldn't have made it to the games if that was the case.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ocean State CrossFit, for picking Alex Bozenhart up and making him a more positive athlete, so he can use that for next year's experience.
Yes.
All right, cool. I mean, yeah. Again, you guys made it through the day 2. You finished top 5 at every event.
Yep, top 5 in every event except for that 16th place on event 2. But top 5 every event. We had.
And you only finished 5th, right?
I think we had 1 3rd place, 2 4th place, 5th, yeah.
And you only finished in 5th, right? You just squeaked in.
Yeah, we just squeaked in.
And that goes to show you how competitive that was. One bad event and the rest of them in the top 5, and he still just made it top 5 because they send the top 5 for teams. Yeah. So again, it's awesome that you guys were able to do that. And once you finally found out you were making to the games, what was that like? Leading up to the games, from like, oh shit, this is a reality. What did you guys have to do to get yourself prepared to that next level? Because now you're at a whole other level. Now you're competing against the best teams in the world, not just in an area.
Yeah. Everything changes. We had to change. In regionals, you kind of narrow your focus a little bit. You're not going to see swimming. You're not going to see sled pushes. You're not going to see, certain things at the games. Anything goes. Yeah. Anything could happen. So
what did you guys say when you got together as a team and said we made it?
Took a couple days to let it sink in.
What did you guys set for the goal? Did you say I want to win this thing, or did you guys say okay, let's be realistic so we can train? What did you guys do to react?
At first,
I don't even have a clue. I stopped talking to you about that stuff once you decided to go team, because no longer, it was out of my hands. I couldn't really help you as an individual anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? You had Ray and he was your coach, and I didn't want to get involved and say anything wrong because, well, it ain't my place to say anything anymore. You're on a team. Yeah. So I kind of didn't really even ask you that stuff. So I'm learning this stuff today. What did you?
We had a communication, a group chat going on, and we met as a team a couple times, and we figured we'll train as much as we can, as often as we can together, based on our schedules. We were definitely one of, I don't know how many teams, I'm pretty pressed to say one of a few teams who were made up of people with full-time jobs. Tristan just graduated college and had a summer job. Christine had a full-time job. Taylor, full-time military at the Coast Guard. I had 3 jobs. And Ray and Ashley were very busy running the gym, running Ocean State. Ray's the owner of Ocean State. Ashley, his fiance, full-time coach there at Ocean State. So it was a little easier for them. Their schedule's a little bit more flexible, but they have tons of clients between the two of them. So.
And you guys are from Connecticut.
We're from Connecticut.
And
Tristan
Tristan's
was also
from
living
Connecticut.
in Mystic at the time.
So you got
he was living in
45-minute ride up
in
there.
Rhode Island during the winter, but once he graduated, he was at home in Mystic. So we had quite the commute all season.
And for you guys that don't know that, like, it's mandatory that they go up there 4 times a week. Their training has to be at that gym the majority of the time. So that has to become their home gym.
Yeah.
And I made that very clear with Alex, to make sure that happened, because
make sure Taylor and I weren't.
they had to go up there. I mean, they were up there a lot, and to be able to put that sacrifice in, just to drive alone, 45 minutes to an hour one way. You're talking 2 hours of your day, and then other people who have full-time jobs to get out there. I mean, it's pretty spectacular.
So the realistic goal was to do the best we can. Like I said, a lot of these teams train together every day, full time. That's their job. They work at the gym and they train together, and that's how Mayhem, Invictus, all these top teams, that's how they operate. Back Bay, Reebok, CrossFit One, that's how they operate. So, not being one of those teams, not having those luxuries, we try to come up with a schedule to work out 4 times a week together, 3 times a week together. That was the best we could do. So, I guess.
You want to crack the top 10? Do you want to be in the top 5? Like,
the goal was to
do the best you could.
To do the best we could, to not really set ourselves up for disappointment, but to definitely do the best we could.
Cool.
So.
And you guys did. Unfortunate circumstances. One of your athletes broke her hand. Ashley broke her hand. What, 8 weeks before the game? I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it was 10 weeks before the game started.
So a broken hand, and she competed in the game. So, they came out strong, and I think that, just the lack of training and being able to train kind of, eventually it starts to wear down on you. For those of you, that don't know what the CrossFit Games, I mean, they're doing, how many workouts you do in 3 days, 4 days? 12 workouts in 4 days. Try doing one workout every day. And tell me how you feel. But, trying to do 12 in 4 days, eventually the lack of being able to do certain movements to get ready for a competition at that level starts to, wear on you as an individual. And when you're in a team sport, I think that eventually you just kind of get worn down. And the recovery is just not as quick. So I think that was kind of the unfortunate circumstance at the time. But even at that, I mean, she, competed at a ridiculously high level. But now you're talking separating the top 10 from the top 5. I mean, you're literally looking at teams that, and every individual on the team being able to train 4 and 5 times a day. And now you're starting to get to the point where, okay, where are we going to fall in with this as the week goes on? But you guys started 8th, and you finished what, 13th, 14th? 14th, yeah. 14th out of 40? Yeah, I mean, even at that is insane. Imagine if they had everybody healthy on the team. I think they would have cracked the top 10. After day 1, when I was out there watching, I think, they have the ability to be in the top 5 against everybody that was out there. So, I mean, I really believe that was a strong team. Again, they finished 5th in regionals, but 5th in regionals, I mean, they could have won some of the other regions. So, again, it was awesome to see that. So I was pretty excited, man. I've gone out to the games a lot. I've never had anyone other than Angel, her first year out at the games as a Masters athlete, be out there. So usually when I go out there, I'm just a spectator. This year I got to actually enjoy watching someone that I've helped coaching and get to that level. So it was just exciting to see, But again, well, I mean, what kind of advice would you give to people really just kind of getting out, just say off the street and just trying to get a new program together? Again, yeah, it was magnified on a different level for you, but they kind of go through the same type of process. You kind of walk into the unknown. You walked into the unknown of the CrossFit world. You saw that you set yourself up. You had a goal for yourself, and you started to set expectations and smaller goals to get to that goal. I mean, what would you tell people? Because if they were coming into the gym, or someone who hasn't worked out before, even someone in the gym, how important is it to set those goals for yourself? I mean, what do you think, you would have been able to make it to the CrossFit Games if you didn't have any goals set and you just said, I'm just going to train every day, just wake up every morning and train? You think realistically, do you think you can make it to the games without setting any kinds of goals and expectations?
If I didn't want to go and do anything with it, if I didn't want it.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you said I want to go to the games, but you just walked in every day and just trained, and that was it. That you just, I'm going to do, one class a day because that's what's required in CrossFit, and then I'll just see where it takes me.
Hopefully it gets me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's impossible.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean, you guys? So it's important to understand you have to set goals for yourself. Like that's the whole point behind this podcast. This podcast and the podcast I'm going to have is like trying to get you to understand that what approach people take every day, successful people, to get them to their ultimate goal. So you can kind of see his kind of journey from starting through the gym, getting, walking in the gym the first day to making it to the CrossFit Games. I want you to understand you have to have that same type of journey, whether it's to lose 5 pounds or 50 pounds or 60 pounds, that there's a process to get there. Yeah. And you can't just wake up and say, oh, the program's going to get me there, or, the program isn't going to be enough. You have to be mentally set up and mentally prepared to be successful. Success comes from the brain, and I'm a firm believer in it. And again, when I used to work with athletes, they'd be on the same program, fitness and nutrition. One would see results and one wouldn't. And I'd actually talk to each individual and say, well, what did you do and what did you do? And you've got someone that gives me a book of things that they did. This is before I started kind of preaching this stuff. They'd have goals set up and they follow all these things every day. And the other person was like, oh, I just followed the plan that you gave me. And again, the plan that I gave him was just a nutrition plan or a fitness plan. But unsuccessful person that just did that. Successful, the person that had a log, wrote everything down, had goals set for themselves, weekly goals, monthly goals. And again, and that was the success, which brought me here today in the podcast. And the things that I'm going to be trying to do is to try to get you that advice so you can start to see the way the process is and the way the process happens. That's the goal with bringing people on, is you can see different people's train of thought, but it all goes down to the same thing and how they got to their end result. So guys, Alex, I want to thank you for coming on, and what spectacular work. I mean, I can't say enough about how hard you worked for the last 2 years. I saw it every day. To get to that level again, I didn't know if you could get there. Obviously, you proved me wrong. I'm sure you proved a lot of people wrong as well. But again, I couldn't be more proud to have seen you guys out on the floor, you and Taylor. I say them. Like I said, there's another athlete in here, a female athlete, who competed as well, and she's incredible. And again, to get to that level, the mental toughness that you needed to get there was, nothing that I couldn't. I mean, I was mentally tough when I was training. Could put a lot of things aside and just black out and work out, but never at that level that I can see in your eyes. And it's pretty amazing, and I'm pretty excited to have seen that. And I mean, congratulations, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Guys, again, keep tuning in. This podcast is going to go out pretty soon. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get some good information from it. Check in with us next week. Again, we're going to have a guest on every week, kind of talking about their experiences and how they became successful or had some sort of success and what the road was to get there. So thank you guys for coming, logging on and checking us out. Again, any questions that you have, because I'm going to answer questions too, like I've talked about before. I have some questions I have to answer, but we're not going to put them in this podcast. But if you have questions, guys, ask me your questions. I'll be able to answer them for you. If you have questions about how to achieve a goal or what steps you need to take, remember, you can go to Mike Penta on Facebook or at the Mental Trainer on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
860BOZY21.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you want to talk to Alex privately or just congratulate him or ask him questions, he's a trainer of mine too. So he's a trainer at New London CrossFit. So if he doesn't answer you, you just send me a message and I'll fire him again. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully that you were able to get some good information from this, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.